What is up, YouTube? Today I'm coming back at you with another video, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. This is actually a video tag that I'm going to be responding to. This is from MediaAssault's YouTube channel. If you've never watched him and you like my DVD and Blu-ray pickups and you like physical movies, definitely go check him out. I'm subscribed to him. I definitely recommend subscribing to him. And the tag is favorite movies by genre. Tag, and there's a bunch of different categories, and I went through my entire collection, which I'm going to have to put all back to where it belongs when I'm done, because I pulled out as many of the movies that I actually own. There's a few on this list that I don't own, but I basically went through the different genres that the tag includes, and I just picked my favorite movies in that genre, and yeah, we'll just go through each one, and I'll talk a little bit about why I chose it. And yeah, I'll leave the categories in the description, and you can check those out for yourself if you'd like. And yeah, let's just get right into it. There's a lot of different categories. So, the first category is the action-adventure category. Now, this one was pretty much a no-brainer for me. I used to watch a lot of action movies. I still do watch a lot of action movies, but this one was a no-brainer. When it comes to action movies, I really only have one favorite, and that is The Matrix, the original Matrix, this first one right here. Now, I only have the triple pack Blu-ray, but I'm referring only to the first one, and the first Matrix movie was phenomenal. It has pretty much everything you want in a movie in terms of action movies. You've got great hand-to-hand combat, you've got gunplay, you've got cool, you've got good chase scenes, and another really cool thing about this movie is it actually has a really good story to it, unlike some action movies. Some action movies are a lot more just about the action and not really too much about the story. This one actually has a really good story to it, and it's also more sci-fi driven, which is something that I'm really into, and it's just a wonderful movie. Lawrence Fishburne, Keanu Reeves, they do a fantastic job, and it's definitely one of my favorite movies of all time, and I absolutely love The Matrix. Highly recommend anybody who hasn't seen it, definitely check out this trilogy, and definitely give The Matrix a shot. You won't regret it, I promise. Alright, the next genre that is on the list is animation/family movies. Now, this one was a little difficult. I'm not the biggest fan of animation movies. I do watch a lot of anime TV shows, but I don't watch a lot of animated movies. Now, that's not really because I don't like animated movies. I really do. I just haven't found a lot that really cater to my tastes. A lot of the tastes that I have when it comes to animation tend to be some stuff that takes a lot longer than a movie has to offer in terms of runtime. So, my pick for my favorite animation is Princess Mononoke. I absolutely love this movie. It's a fantastic movie by Studio Ghibli, and it's a Japanese anime movie, and it's just wonderfully done. It's got fantasy elements to it. It's got a little bit of Japanese legends to it, and it's basically like an allegory of modernization and the destruction of nature, which Miyazaki really likes to do allegories and stuff like that in his anime movies, so Princess Mononoke is no exception to that, but it's just a fantastically written story. The animation is beautiful, the soundtrack is fantastic. It's an all-around amazing movie, and definitely my favorite animated movie of all time. It's just an amazing movie, and definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen this one. It's also a really great entry point for those of you who have never watched Japanese anime before. It's a really great medium, and I think they have a lot to offer if you decide to check out anime. But yeah, Princess Mononoke, can't really recommend it enough. I'm trying not to spoil too much about the stories while I talk about them, but I just wanted to say a little bit about that one. Now, this next one was a little bit more of a difficult choice for me, and the next category is comedy. I love comedy movies. I have quite a few of them, so it was really hard for me to pick one. Now, I eventually narrowed it down, but it's hard to say which one I would really say is my favorite amongst these two. But I think I would have to say 21 Jump Street. These movies are so funny. I absolutely love these movies, just for a number of different reasons. It's a parody of like buddy cop movies, and it really kind of takes the whole Hollywood doesn't have any new ideas, they're just rehashing stuff, and basically makes fun of that whole idea. And Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill are fantastic together. I absolutely love their dynamic, and I think they do a fantastic job together. Now, what movie was competing with this? 22 Jump Street. They're both fantastic comedies, and I almost want to say 22 Jump Street's better than the original, but the first one's so good also. It's really hard to say which one I like more, but definitely 21 Jump Street is definitely my pick, or maybe even 22 Jump Street. It's definitely between one of those two, and I think they're fantastic movies. If you like buddy cop movies and you like comedies, this is definitely one to check out. It's basically about the two cops that have to go undercover and go back to high school, and it's just really, really funny because it's basically like how much has changed since they've been in high school, and it's a great comedy movie. Now, there's a lot of other comedies that I think should have honorable mentions, but this one is definitely one of my favorites. Now, the next category is drama. Now, drama, I love dramatic movies. I have a lot of different dramatic movies, but the key thing I wanted to do with this is I didn't want to overlap categories. I didn't want to have one movie in multiple categories, so I tried to pick stuff that I wouldn't pick for a different category. And so the drama category, I originally had something else, but I thought it fit into a better category later on. And so I decided to pick this one instead, which is still one of my favorite movies, and that is Shawshank Redemption. Absolutely amazing movie. Morgan Freeman does an amazing job. Tim Robbins, does an amazing job as well. And it's just a great movie. Basically, this movie is about a man who goes to prison for the murder of his wife, and just like the experience that he has there. It's super well done, super well written, the soundtrack's amazing, the acting is phenomenal. I think the pacing in this movie is great. It really doesn't feel like it's too short or too long. I think it really hit the nail on the head with this. And I feel like you get a really good sense of character development through this movie as well. And it just really shows like a lot of character growth. I don't know really what else to say. I mean, this movie is an absolute classic. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. There's so many iconic things in this movie that are referenced in popular media. And also, Morgan Freeman's narration of the movie really makes it a much more personable viewing experience rather than just a movie you see playing out in front of you. You kind of feel like you're going through the story of what this man saw while he was there. So it's really, really well done. It's one of my top 5, top 10, top 5. I can't remember which one. I made a video about it, about my top movies of all time, and this was in the list. So definitely recommend checking this one out. Now the next category is fantasy. I love fantasy movies, and I know that there's objectively better made movies than the one I'm going to say is my favorite, but this one is my favorite because this movie right here is what got me into the fantasy genre. I used to watch this on VHS as a kid, and I would rewatch it, and I would rewatch it. And in fact, it's the only movie that I know that we owned on VHS that I actually noticed visual degradation in the tape itself from how much I watched this movie and rewound this movie. I love this movie, and that is a movie Dragonheart. Now, by no means is this a masterpiece movie. I don't think... I have a heavy nostalgia for this movie, which is the main reason why I picked it. and I don't think everyone will get the same enjoyment out of it as I will, but I do think it has a bit of a charm to it that a lot of 90s movies had, and Sean Connery playing the role of the Dragon Draco, I think was an amazing choice. The voice definitely fits that sort of larger-than-life character, and Dennis Quaid does a really great job in this movie as well. It's a really good movie. It's a really good fantastical adventure. It's not a serious movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely got its cheesy moments, and it's PG-13. There's not a lot of blood in it. It's not a heavy, like, grim, dark fantasy movie, sort of like not even on the same level as Lord of the Rings. It's very family friendly, and it's a really good movie. I think it's also very touching the way that they made this movie, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I loved this movie as a kid. I watched it so many times, and I couldn't pick any other movie for my favorite fantasy movie. It's just, I could watch this whenever, wherever, any time of the day. I will watch this movie. It's so good. I love this movie. Alright, so the next category is romance. Now, I don't honestly watch a lot of romance movies, and this was actually originally my pick for best drama, but I thought that this one could also be in romance, and since I don't own a lot of romance movies and I don't watch a lot of romance movies, I decided to put this one here since it is a romance story as well, but it's also very dramatic and a very it's a sci-fi, it's sort of got sci-fi elements to it, and it's very dramatic, but it's also a romance. So it's also a fantastic movie. This one made my top 5 movies of all times, so definitely recommend checking this one out if you have the chance, but my pick for best romance is Her. Now, this is an amazing movie. Joaquin Phoenix is my favorite actor, and I think he does a fantastic job in pretty much everything that he's in, but I think this movie especially is fantastic. Scarlett Johansson does an amazing job as a voice actress in this, and she really brings the character of Samantha to life. And for those of you who don't know, this is a romance movie about a guy who falls in love with an AI. And it's really, really good. It's really well shot. I love the cinematography in this. I love the soundtrack. Really brings the mood for this movie into like perspective. And I just think that the acting is really well done, and it doesn't really, there's no action, there's no high intensity. This is very mellow, very slow, but it's so well done, and it's well worth getting to the end of this movie. And I guarantee you, if you're a fan of dramatic movies and romance movies, you'll probably really like this, especially if you like sci-fi. So definitely recommend checking out Her. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I absolutely love this movie. Joaquin Phoenix does an amazing job in that. Now the next category is a category that I also don't have a lot of movies for, but I definitely want to get more into, and that is the crime category. Now I haven't watched a lot of movies that involve crime or mystery. It was never really brought up on that when I was growing up. Growing up, my dad loved action movies, and he loved thought-provoking movies. And my mom really liked romance movies, so that was really a lot of the stuff that I grew up with. And then when I started building my own movie collection, and when I moved out, I never really got into the crime genre all that much, and I don't really have a lot of crime movies. But one that I do own, and one that I do like, is a movie called Public Enemies. And this is a movie with Johnny Depp, Christian Bale, and it's a movie about John Dillinger, and basically his journey into becoming a famous criminal. And I absolutely really like this movie. I'm not a huge fan of Johnny Depp, honestly, but it's one of the very few movies that I can tolerate him in. And I think it's a great movie. I think it stays very true to history. And I really, really like the style that this was shot in, and it really makes me want to watch more noir style movies. And it's actually something that I've been looking at purchasing, is more like 40s and 50s noir movies. but this one has that same sort of noir feel, and I think it's really well shot, and I think it's really well done. And if you like crime movies, I think this is definitely one to check out. It's a good movie, definitely well acted, and very memorable. So definitely recommend checking out Public Enemies if you're looking for a good crime movie. Now, the next category is a category that is very special to me, as it is my favorite genre. And it's also the hardest one to pick, because I have so many movies in this genre, it's ridiculous. The next genre is sci-fi. Sci-fi is my favorite movie genre of all time. As you've noticed, some of the movies that I mentioned in previous categories had sci-fi elements, like The Matrix and Her. But straight up sci-fi, I have so many sci-fi movies. I've seen so many sci-fi movies. I absolutely love sci-fi movies. And it's very hard for me to pick one, but this one definitely stands out amongst the rest for a number of different reasons. And the movie I picked was Interstellar. Okay, so the first reason why I picked this is my favorite director is Christopher Nolan, and I think pretty much everything that I've seen from him I've absolutely loved. I've loved every movie that I've watched by Christopher Nolan. He's a fantastic director, and I absolutely love everything that he's done, basically. And anytime I hear news of a new Christopher Nolan film coming out, I get excited. Like when Dunkirk was coming out, I was super hyped about it, even though there wasn't that much hype about another World War II movie. I was hyped for the Christopher Nolan directing movie, and it turned out to be a fantastic movie as well. But this is definitely my favorite movie from him, and this is my favorite sci-fi movie, and this is one of my top 3 movies of all time. I remember watching the trailer for this movie, and just from watching one trailer, I knew that this movie was going to be special. I knew it was going to be an epic movie, and I knew it was going to be one of my favorite movies of all time, just from the way this trailer was shot, just from the way the acting I could tell from the trailer, and the way that the soundtrack was put together for it. I just knew that this was going to be one of my favorite movies of all time, and it is. It is a fantastic sci-fi movie. And it's a really well shot movie. Cinematography is gorgeous in this movie. The special effects are fantastic. The story is amazing. The soundtrack, Hans Zimmer is my favorite composer for film, and Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan always work really well together, and it's no exception in Interstellar. Hans Zimmer really delivers in this movie, and I think it's some of Hans Zimmer's best work, and it's just so well done. Matthew McConaughey is amazing in this movie. So before watching this movie, I thought of Matthew McConaughey as sort of like a one-trick pony. A lot of romance movies he did, and that was basically what he liked to stick to. He did do U-571, which I thought was really good, but I thought that might have been like a fluke, because he hadn't made many movies that I thought were really that great. Then I saw him in this, and I knew that he definitely has the acting chops to deliver an amazing emotional performance, and I absolutely love it. This is my favorite movie with Matthew McConaughey, and it's all around. I cannot recommend this movie enough. I don't know what else to say. If you haven't seen this movie and you're a fan of sci-fi, you have to watch it. It's so good. So I'll stop gushing about this movie, but Interstellar is my pick for my favorite sci-fi. All right, the next, where are we at? The next genre is thriller. Now, this is one that I also wanted to pick for my favorite horror movie, because I kind of interchanged the definition of horror and thriller, as a lot of thriller movies have horror aspects and a lot of horror movies have thriller aspects. So I kind of mix and match them a lot, but there are some like straight up thrillers, like The Hitcher I think is a pretty good straight up thriller, and movies like that, both the remake and the original, are pretty good straight up thrillers. But my favorite thriller movie, if I had to pick one, has a lot of horror elements, and it's considered a slasher horror, but I consider it I think it falls most into the thriller category, and that is the original Scream. Now, this is the 4-pack with all of them, but the original Scream is my favorite thriller, and I even consider it my favorite horror I almost consider it my favorite horror movie even. I love watching Scream. It's such a well-shot movie. It's got a really good story to it, which is what I really like about Scream, because a lot of slashers especially don't have great stories. Like, I bought all of the Friday the 13th movies, and they're all right. They're just very gory and, you know, a lot of, you know, grotesque imagery. But Scream has some of that, but it also has a great story to fall back on, and a great detective, sort of like whodunit style story. And I think Scream is really, really, you know, sort of the next level in thrillers. And I think that it was never really beat even amongst the other Scream movies. I think Scream 2 is pretty good, Scream 3 is not that great, and Scream 4 is alright, but definitely Scream 1 is the best Scream movie. And if you haven't seen Scream 1, it's a classic movie. If you like slashers, I think you'll definitely take a liking to this, because it is a slasher, but it's also a thriller in my opinion, and it does stuff that other slashers really don't do. And I think overall it's just a really well thought out story. Something I can't really say for like some of the other Scream movies. So I definitely recommend checking out the original Scream. It's my pick for my favorite thriller. Alright, the next movie, let's see what we have here. Thriller, oh yes. So, the next movie is one of the movies that was actually contending for my favorite comedy movie, but it's my favorite teen movie. Now, this was almost my pick for favorite comedy, because I do love this movie, and it is one of my favorite comedies, and it probably is my favorite comedy. But I also think it's my favorite teen movie, just because so much of what happens in this movie is so relatable from what I experienced personally in high school. It's just very, very similar, like conversations with my friends, and sort of the dynamic between friend groups, and sort of like the way that people talk, and sort of the conversations that we had in high school. It all is very close to home. And then the comedy is stuff that I thought was hilarious in high school, because this came out roughly around the same time, and it really struck home, and I think it really hit the nail on the head with what it was trying to accomplish, and that is Superbad. I absolutely love Superbad. It really resonates with my teen years, and I definitely look back fondly on this movie. Jonah Hill, again, is like one of my favorite comedic actors. I think he does a fantastic job in this, and without Jonah Hill, I think this movie would fall a lot more flat than it did. Now, this isn't my only teen movie that I really like. I also really like the American Pie movie, like the first and the second one. I think they're both really good too. But if I had to choose, I definitely would pick Superbad. It's fantastic, really well shot, and I can't recommend this one enough. It's a great comedy too. If you like, you know, sort of teen comedies, this is definitely one to check out. So I'm gonna pause the video here, and then I'll splice together the rest of it, and we'll continue on with the next genre. Alright, so the next genre is chick flicks. Now, I don't actually own this movie, because my girlfriend has it, which she has her own movie collection that she keeps separate from my movies in the other room. But I didn't feel like grabbing this movie out of her collection. But my favorite chick flick is Mean Girls. I absolutely love Mean Girls. It's so funny. Now, I hadn't actually watched Mean Girls when it first came out, or I didn't actually watch it until I started dating my girlfriend. And she told me I needed to watch it. It's an absolute classic. And now that I've seen it, I 100% agree. Mean Girls is hilarious. Not only is it a chick flick, which it is sort of like a chick flick comedy, it's just a really good comedy in general. I think Lindsay Lohan does a really good job in it. I can't remember the other actresses' names, but they're all really good in it. And I think that there's so many references in pop culture to Mean Girls now that I've seen it that I recognize. And I think it's just definitely something that you should watch if you're a fan of chick flick movies and you haven't seen it. And it just recently came out on Blu-ray, and it's in a fantastic Blu-ray edition with a really cool pink case. And I really recommend that edition of it. It's a really good version. And yeah, so that's my pick for best chick flick. let's see, where are we at? Favorite superhero movie. So, superhero movies, again, is another heavily contested category for me. I watch a lot of superhero movies. I've seen every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in theaters. I've watched all the pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe Marvel movies. I've seen all of the X-Men movies except for Dark Phoenix, which I'm waiting to come out in Blu-ray. And I've seen all of the DC Cinematic Universe. I've seen all of the Tim Burton Batman movies. I've seen some of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. I've just seen a lot of superhero movies. And I really, really love superhero movies a lot. So it was really hard for me to pick one, because there's so many good ones. Infinity War is definitely in the contending for my favorite superhero movie. Then you have stuff like Thor Ragnarok that's really good. You have X-Men Days of Futures Past. I absolutely love that movie. Logan, another fantastic X-Men movie. Absolutely love that movie. And I actually really have a soft spot for the original Hulk movie with what's his name? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's the one that's pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe. I actually really like that movie. But if I had to pick my favorite superhero movie of all time, it definitely goes to this. And that is Batman Returns. This is the Michael Keaton Batman Returns, the sequel to 1989 Batman, directed by Tim Burton. Has Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer in it. And this is definitely my favorite superhero movie. It's got so many things that I love in it. It's got an amazing soundtrack, absolutely amazing soundtrack. I love the cinematography in this. It's super dark, it's super creepy, and I just really like it. It's got that comic book feel to it, with that sort of like gothic 20s vibe that Tim Burton brings to the Batman universe. And it's just, I love everything that went into this movie, and I love the bad guy. I love Penguin. I think Danny DeVito does a great job at playing Penguin, and I think the story of Penguin, is really, well thought out for this movie. I think it does a really good job at telling his story, and Michelle Pfeiffer does an amazing job as Catwoman. I think she's the best Catwoman and still the one to beat. Michael Keaton is a classic choice for Batman. Definitely my favorite Batman actor, and I think he does a great job. So, for those of you who haven't seen it, it definitely has its fair share of 90s cheese to it. I will not lie, there's some cheesy moments in the Tim Burton Batman movies. But if you can look past some cheesiness, and you can look at the darkness of the story and the cinematography and the score for what it is, I guarantee you'll probably enjoy this movie. So, just in general, I just prefer DC movies, even the new ones. I love Man of Steel. Man of Steel is a fantastic superhero movie, and I just think DC has, I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, I think DC has better superheroes. I just like DC's heroes better than Marvel's heroes. That's not to say I don't like Marvel's heroes. In fact, I grew up reading comics from Marvel before reading DC comics. I watched DC movies when I was a kid, but I never read the DC comics like Batman or Superman or anything like that. I only watched the movies for DC when I was younger. But I did read Marvel comics when I was younger, and I really, really love X-Men. The X-Men comics are my favorite comics. And, second favorite comics. Black Panther is my favorite comic book superhero of all time. Black Panther movie, also amazing. Definitely check that one out. But X-Men is definitely the one I grew up on the most. And X-Men movies, because of that, are some of my favorite superhero movies. But I just think DC does it better, and that's just an opinion, honestly. So, Batman Returns is definitely my choice for favorite superhero movie. Alright. The next movie is one that I don't own, that I actually need to buy. I really need to buy this movie because it's a fantastic movie. And it's my favorite martial arts movie. My favorite martial arts movie is Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. I love that movie. It's got a really good story to it. It's sort of, you know, a lot of martial arts movies don't really have great stories, and I mean, Enter the Dragon's not like a fantastic, like next level story or anything, but it is a good story, and I think that the acting is fairly well done for a kung fu movie. Now, what really makes a kung fu movie good, though, is the fight scenes, obviously. That's what you watch a martial arts movie for. And Enter the Dragon has some amazing fight scenes. That fight scene in the mirror room with Bruce Lee is so good, and it's been repeated and mimicked in so many other movies that it's hard to not acknowledge that as a classic martial arts movie. And Enter the Dragon is by far my favorite martial arts movie, and I really need to buy that. I'm not sure if is there even a Blu-ray for that? I don't know, but I know there's a DVD, and I definitely need to get one or the other because I love that movie. Now, one movie that's sort of in there as well that I actually also really like, not my favorite, but definitely one worth checking out, is Kung Pao. If you like comedy and parody movies and you want a parody of a martial arts movie, watch Kung Pao. It's really funny. So, yeah, Enter the Dragon, my choice for favorite martial arts movie. Now, my favorite horror movie. Now, this one is my favorite horror movie. It's undeniably the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. I have to acknowledge that this is the scariest movie I've ever seen. It's the best scary movie that I have ever watched, ever. And I have seen a lot of scary movies. I've seen a lot of them. And this one is the one that legitimately gave me nightmares and as an adult. And it is one that actually made me jump in theaters, which I don't normally jump that often in horror movies in theaters or at all. I do enjoy watching horror movies, but it takes a lot for me to actually jump. And this one not only did it make me jump, but it gave me that sort of horror movie feel where it sends a cold chill down your spine, which I never get. I absolutely never get that when watching horror movies. This did that, though. It is so well shot. And that is Sinister, the original Sinister. This is such a great horror movie, and it's so scary. This is such a great scary movie. Ethan Hawke, fantastic actor. He's one of my favorites as well. He does a great job in this movie. And this is such a good horror movie with him in it. And everything about this movie is just terrifying. I absolutely love it. And I've only seen it once. I only saw it in theaters. I've owned this Blu-ray for like 3 years, and I've not watched it. It's really good. I don't know what to say. I'm waiting to forget as much as I can about this movie before I watch it again, but it's so good. It's basically sort of like a found footage sort of like mystery horror movie with this like really creepy supernatural entity involved, and you have to watch it. If you're a fan of horror movies and you haven't seen Sinister, you do yourself a favor and watch it. It's really good. Now, I've heard Sinister 2 is awful, so don't watch that one. I haven't seen it myself, and I didn't watch it myself because I did not want to ruin the image of this at all. I could not bring myself to watch a sequel to this because this doesn't need a sequel. It's just really good. And yeah, definitely my favorite horror movie of all time. Alright, let's see, what are we moving on to? Favorite historical movie. This was an easy choice. Now, I love historical movies and I watch a lot of them, but this is definitely an easy choice because this is my favorite movie of all time, and it's a historical movie, and it was just an easy choice because it is my favorite movie of all time, and that is Gladiator. I mean, what can you say? In my opinion, this is a flawless motion picture. Everything about this movie is like 5 out of 5, amazing. Acting, soundtrack, cinematography, story, just everything in this movie is like top notch. There's a reason why it won 5 Academy Awards. It's really good. Joaquin Phoenix delivers a fantastic performance as Commodus. It's just so good. He plays such a good villain. And Russell Crowe does a really great job as the main protagonist, and it's just so well shot, and it's hard to even put into words how good this movie is. It's so good. Now, I recommend highly that you do not watch the extended cut of Gladiator. It's not the director's cut. The director said himself in interviews that his preferred version of this movie, Ridley Scott prefers the theatrical cut. And I agree. I've seen both. Theatrical cut's better. All the extended cut does is add deleted scenes in that really are just not important at all. It adds fluff that ruins the flow of the movie. The flow of the movie is perfect the way it was and does not need anything else. The soundtrack, Hans Zimmer, so good, just so good. I mean, it's hard to beat Hans Zimmer, and this is definitely some of his best work again. And the action scenes and the battle scenes are so well shot and so well choreographed. It's just a top-notch movie. Definitely recommend this one, and my favorite movie of all time right there, but also my favorite historical movie. Now this is a category that I am actually really excited to talk about, because I don't really talk about this category a lot, and that is favorite foreign movie. I love foreign movies, I really do. I watch quite a few of them, and particularly my favorite country that produces movies other than the United States is South Korea. I love South Korean movies. They are really, really good at making movies. Pretty much out of all the movies I've watched, I would say one South Korean movie was not like top notch. Age of Shadows is like an amazing movie, and that was a contender for this category. Age of Shadows is a South Korean movie about the Japanese occupation in South Korea. Oh, it's so good. Definitely check that one out if you want a historical drama movie in South Korea during the Japanese occupation. Oh, that's definitely one to check out, and definitely one worth mentioning. But my favorite, by far, is Commitment. This is another South Korean movie. This is sort of like a spy espionage movie, and it's just really, really well shot. Really well acted. I really like the main actor in this, whose name is Choi Seung-hun, and I'm probably butchering that, but he does a really great job in this movie. He basically plays a North Korean spy sent to go undercover and gather information in South Korea, and he's really, really good in this movie. And I don't want to give too much away, but he's basically going into South Korea and became a spy in order to save his sister that still lives in North Korea. And North Korea is basically using his sister as a hostage. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's a fantastic movie. If you like espionage movies, and you like drama, and you like thrillers, definitely one to check out. I think South Korea does an amazing job on these sort of espionage movies. They do a really good job at it. And there's great action sequences in this, very similar. If you like Jason Bourne, the Jason Bourne original trilogy style action, you'll love this, because this is very similar in style. And it's got great hand-to-hand combat, great gun combat, great chase scenes. It's a really great movie. But definitely my favorite foreign movie. Age of Shadows is also a pretty close second for that, though. Alright, favorite documentary. Now, I don't own any documentaries on physical media at all. I really don't. I should buy some of them, because I do watch them. I don't own any of them, but I definitely should buy them, especially the one I'm going to talk about. My favorite documentary is Dogtown and the Z-Boys. For those of you who don't know, I was a really big skateboarder back in the day. Back in high school, skateboarding was like my biggest hobby. Every free moment that I had, I was skateboarding. And during the summer, I would skateboard for probably 10 hours a day, every day. And I just skateboard nonstop. And I absolutely love skateboarding, and I still, to this day, I absolutely love skateboarding. I don't have nearly the skill that I used to. A lot of my skills, a lot of my tricks that I used to be able to do, I can't do anymore, as I haven't practiced in years. I still do have my skateboard, but Dogtown and the Z-Boys is a documentary about the origins of skateboarding. And it tells the story of the Zephyr skate team and how they revolutionized skateboarding, because skateboarding exists before Dogtown and the Z-Boys. However, it was all like homemade stuff. There weren't a lot of different tricks, and it was all very like, I don't know, very meh. The Z-Boys and Zephyr, they revolutionized skateboarding and took it into the direction that it's become today. They introduced a lot of surfing aspects to it and the way that you move. They introduced things like the cannonball jump, which isn't really used anymore. But they introduced, what are they called? Burt slides. That's something that they pretty much, founded. And they basically were the ones that discovered pool skating, which is a genre of skateboarding all in itself. And it's just a really great documentary. It's very fascinating to hear about, especially if you're interested in skateboarding. And I definitely recommend checking that one out. And I should buy that one. It's a really good documentary. Alright, now my favorite Western is, this is the last category. This is definitely my favorite Western, no contest. I absolutely love this. And that is Young Guns. I absolutely love Young Guns. I think Emilio Estevez is so good in this movie. He nails that sort of carefree, sort of whimsical feel, but also he's got that sort of twisted side to him, and he's got that the laugh that he has. You know how Emilio Estevez has that laugh that he does. It really fits the character of Billy the Kid, and I think it does a really good job portraying Billy the Kid. Kiefer Sutherland also is fantastic in this. Charlie Sheen, really good. Pretty much everybody in this movie is really, really good. It's also surprisingly historically accurate. I've watched a couple documentaries, well, at least from what I understand. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on Billy the Kid, but from the documentaries that I've seen and the little bit of information that I've read about Billy the Kid, this seems to actually be relatively historically accurate. Very little dramatization. Obviously some things are creative liberties are taken, but for the most part, a lot of the things that happen in this movie are things that actually happened. So it's a really good, it's a really good Western. It's a really good historical film, and it's just a fantastic movie altogether. I think the soundtrack's really good in this movie, and the cinematography's really good. It really stands above the rest in terms of Westerns for me, and I absolutely love this movie. So there you go. And that completes my my tag video. So thank you to MediaAssault for tagging me, and thank you for making your tag video. I really love your channel. If you are watching this, and anyone who hasn't heard of MediaAssault, go check out his channel. And yeah, so that concludes my tag video. Alright, so people that I'm going to tag, I don't imagine, I'm not even going to claim to be a big YouTuber, because I know I'm not. I just do this for fun. But if these people do watch my channel and they do want to take this tag up, I definitely tag Serial at Midnight. I love Serial at Midnight. Definitely one of my favorite physical media collectors to watch. Movie Edge. Definitely go check out his channel as well. He does very similar videos to this. And he has quite an extensive Blu-ray collection. So I would like to tag Movie Edge in this. And those two. And those are the two people I'm going to tag for the favorite movies by genre tag. And definitely go check out MediaAssault's channel as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comment box below of this video. If you guys have any other comments, or you have any comments about my favorites that I have picked, let me know. I'm always happy to respond to these comments, and I try to respond to all the comments that I get. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.